In 1661, a man named Nicolas Fouquet threw a party so extravagant it stunned the French elite. The gardens were illuminated with thousands of candles. The finest musicians performed. The most powerful people in France attended, including the king. The message was clear. Fouquet was wealthy, powerful, untouchable, but within weeks, he was arrested. Not because he broke a law that night, not because the party failed, because he crossed a line. His wealth had reached a level where the rules changed, and he didn't understand that the rules had changed. That's the part most people miss. Money doesn't just buy things. At certain levels, it changes how the system responds to you. Not emotionally, structurally. There are moments where banks treat you differently, where employers treat you differently, where risk treats you differently, and most people never notice the shift because we're taught to think about wealth as one straight ladder. More money, more comfort, more options. But that's not how it works. Wealth moves in thresholds, invisible lines where the rules quietly change. Below the first line, life pushes back constantly. Every mistake costs more than it should. Every delay feels dangerous. Cross the first line, and something subtle happens. Pressure eases. Cross the second, and the leverage begins. Cross the third, and institutions start adjusting themselves around you. The difference isn't luxury, it's treatment. The lion used to believe wealth was about accumulation, saving more, earning more, climbing higher. But over time, he noticed something stranger. Two people could earn similar incomes, yet one felt cornered and the other felt untouchable. The numbers weren't that different. The positioning was. Because once you pass certain levels, the game changes. Loans get cheaper, opportunities come earlier, mistakes stop being fatal. Below those levels, the same decisions carry heavier consequences. That's why this matters. Not to chase status, not to impress anyone, but to understand where the lines actually are. There are 3 wealth levels where the rules shift. Level 1 changes how life pushes against you. Level 2 changes how work and time respond to you. Level 3 changes how institutions calculate risk around you. And if you don't know which level you're in, you might be playing by rules that no longer apply. Or worse, you might assume the rules are fixed when they've already started bending. The first wealth level doesn't look impressive. No luxury, no dramatic lifestyle shift, no visible proof that anything has changed. From the outside, life looks the same. But from the inside, something fundamental is different. Below this line, life pushes back constantly. Every unexpected expense feels like a test. Every delay feels like a threat. Every small mistake carries consequences that linger longer than they should. When you live below level 1, money controls timing. You don't decide when to fix something. You decide when you can survive fixing it. You don't plan long term, you manage short term. Bills aren't just payments, they're checkpoints, deadlines that measure how well you can keep everything balanced. And balancing takes energy. A flat tire isn't just inconvenient, it rearranges your month. A medical bill isn't annoying, it reshapes your decisions for weeks. This is what most people call normal. But it isn't neutral, it's reactive. Level 1 is the point where that reactivity begins to fade. It's not wealth in the traditional sense. It's not even abundance. It's margin. Enough savings to absorb friction, enough distance between income and expenses to breathe. When you cross this line, problems stop escalating automatically. They still happen, but they don't multiply. The lion notices it in subtle ways. A repair no longer means reshuffling everything else. A delayed payment doesn't trigger panic. A surprise expense becomes a task, not a crisis. That shift changes behavior, not because discipline improved, because fear decreased. Below level 1, decisions are defensive. You choose what reduces immediate pressure. You prioritize certainty over optimization. Above level 1, decisions regain flexibility. You can wait. You can compare. You can choose slightly uncomfortable long-term gains over short-term relief. This is where the first rule changes. Below this level, mistakes are amplified. Above it, mistakes are survivable. That difference rewires how you move. Confidence becomes quieter. Planning becomes possible. You're not rich, but you're no longer fragile. And fragility is what makes the world feel hostile. Level 1 doesn't impress anyone. It doesn't photograph well, but it changes the relationship between you and risk. And once that relationship changes, life stops pushing back at every step. Level 1 makes you stable. Level 2 changes your position. This is the line most people misunderstand. Because from the outside, nothing dramatic happens. You might still live in the same place, drive the same car, work the same job. But internally, the balance of power shifts. Below this level, you depend on income. Above it, income depends on you. That difference is subtle, but enormous. When you don't have optionality, every opportunity feels mandatory. Every meeting matters too much. Every negotiation carries silent fear. You can't walk away. You can't pause. You can't afford to say no. So you adapt, you tolerate, you accept terms you wouldn't choose if you had space. That's not weakness, it's math. When your runway is short, your leverage is low. Level 2 is the point where the runway extends. Not forever, not recklessly, but long enough to change how you behave. The lion notices it first in conversations. He listens differently. He negotiates differently. He doesn't rush to agree just to secure certainty, because certainty is no longer scarce. At this level, time becomes an asset. You can wait for the better offer. You can reject the misaligned one. You can leave without collapsing. And when you can leave, something strange happens. People treat you differently. Employers sense it, clients sense it, even institutions sense it. Desperation disappears. And desperation, more than skill, is what weakens positioning. This is where income stops owning you. You don't feel untouchable, you feel composed. There's a calm that comes from knowing one decision won't define the next decade. Mistakes are recoverable, gaps are manageable, delays are survivable. Optionality doesn't mean quitting your job. It means not being psychologically trapped inside it. That psychological shift alters everything downstream. You take smarter risks. You avoid reckless ones. You invest differently. You negotiate differently. Because when survival is secured, strategy becomes possible. Below level 2, choices are filtered through fear of loss. Above it, they're filtered through evaluation of value. That's the second rule that changes. Below this level, you react to opportunity. Above it, you select it. And selection is power. Not loud power, not visible power, structural power. The power to pause, the power to delay, the power to walk away without panic. That's when work changes. Not because the tasks are different, but because the stakes are. And when the stakes feel different, so does your entire posture in the game. Level 1 protects you from fragility. Level 2 gives you optionality. Level 3 changes how the system calculates you. This is the threshold most people never see up close, not because it's mythical, but because it operates quietly. At this level, wealth stops being about income entirely. It becomes about positioning inside networks of capital. Below this line, you apply. Above it, you are invited. Banks don't just approve you, they compete for you. Credit doesn't come with suspicion, it comes with incentives. Interest rates shift, terms soften, requirements shrink. Not because the rules disappeared, because your risk profile changed. That's the core of level 3. Risk behaves differently around you. Below this level, one mistake can reset years of progress. A downturn hits hard, liquidity dries up, opportunities narrow. Above it, volatility becomes tolerable. Losses sting, but they don't destabilize. This is where leverage appears. Not the reckless kind, not borrowing to impress. Strategic leverage. The ability to move larger pieces with smaller effort. The ability to access capital before you urgently need it. The ability to take calculated risks without existential fear. Institutions understand something most individuals don't. Capital attracts capital. When you already have assets, when your balance sheet shows depth, when your liquidity extends beyond the immediate horizon, you stop being evaluated transaction by transaction. You are evaluated structurally. That shift changes negotiations. It changes timing. It changes who reaches out first. The lion notices it in subtle interactions. Conversations start differently. Questions are framed differently. Assumptions tilt in his favor. He isn't smarter, he isn't louder, he's positioned differently. At level 3, the rules don't disappear, they bend. Because institutions optimize for stability, and stability at scale looks like safety. This is the level where compounding accelerates. Not because returns magically improve, but because friction decreases. Cheaper capital, better access, fewer penalties for missteps. Below this level, growth requires constant effort. Above it, growth begins to self-reinforce. That's the third rule that changes. Below this line, you fight the system. Above it, the system aligns with you. This isn't about yachts or status. It's about resilience measured in years instead of months. When downturns come, you don't scramble. You reposition. When opportunities appear, you don't hesitate. You allocate. Level 3 isn't loud. It doesn't look flashy on social feeds, but it changes the slope of the game. And once you see that slope, you realize wealth was never about reaching a number. It was about reaching a point where risk, institutions, and time itself start behaving differently around you. By now, it might sound like this is a ladder. Reach level 1, climb to level 2, push toward level 3. But that framing misses the point, because the real shift was never about the number itself. It was about which rules stopped applying to you. At level 1, the rule that every mistake is fatal begins to disappear. At level 2, the rule that you must accept every opportunity weakens. At level 3, the rule that institutions hold all the leverage starts to bend. The numbers are just markers. The deeper change is structural. Most people chase income. They assume that earning more automatically moves them upward. Sometimes it does. Often it doesn't. Because income without margin keeps you fragile. Income without optionality keeps you dependent. Income without assets keeps you evaluated one transaction at a time. That's why two people can earn similar salaries and live in completely different realities. One is still reacting. The other is selecting. One negotiates from urgency. The other negotiates from patience. One sees risk as danger. The other sees risk as calculation. The lion realizes something uncomfortable. He spent years chasing the visible side of wealth. Bigger numbers, faster growth, more proof. But the visible side wasn't what changed the rules. Control did. Control over panic, control over timing, control over exposure. When you understand wealth through that lens, the goal shifts. Instead of asking, how much do I need? You start asking, which rule am I still stuck under? Am I still living where mistakes echo for months? Am I still unable to say no without fear? Am I still evaluated purely by income instead of assets? Those questions are sharper than any target net worth. Because wealth isn't linear, it moves in thresholds. And once you cross one, life doesn't look richer, it feels different. Pressure softens, time stretches, institutions calculate you differently. That's the part nobody advertises. Not the car, not the house, not the headline number, the rule change. If you chase symbols, you might miss the threshold entirely. But if you chase margin, optionality, and leverage, you'll notice something subtle. The game stops feeling hostile. Not because it became easy, but because you're no longer playing at the level where every move carries the same weight. And once you understand that, wealth stops being a fantasy about lifestyle. It becomes a strategy about positioning. Not to impress anyone, but to move in a world where the rules are always changing, and finally know which ones no longer apply to you. If this video changed the way you think, hit like and subscribe. More ideas like this are coming. See you in the next one.